Ever since Nintendo consoles went to HD, so we're talking since the Wii U, myself and many others have wanted a full-blown new Monster Hunter game made from the ground up for Nintendo's more powerful hardware. Sadly, for years now, all we ever got were HD remasters of games made for Nintendo handhelds. Despite Nintendo players being the main supporters of this franchise for generations, we had to watch the likes of PlayStation, Xbox, even PC. We had to suffer watching all them get the big fancy Monster Hunter World, while we just got our remastered 3DS games. But now it's our time. We have the big fancy new Monster Hunter game, and everyone else has to sit on the sidelines watching us in envy. So after all this time, is Monster Hunter Rise the HD Monster Hunter game Nintendo fans deserve? Well, let's talk about it. Let's start with the visuals. Holy shit. I had a lot of worries about this game going in, specifically with the frame rate. The trailers and the demos gave off the feeling that it could be a bit choppy. We knew Capcom was using this modified version of the RE engine, an amazing engine, to be fair, that has produced, in my opinion, some of the best looking games lately, but I worried this may be too much for the little baby Switch to handle, and I don't know how they pulled this off, but the game looks amazing and performs even better. Visually, it is one of the most impressive looking Switch games. Obviously, the design of the world, the monsters, armor, weapons, etc. is all top tier, as you'd expect from this franchise, but this is a game that I honestly, when I play it, and this only happens with a few Switch games and it's mostly first party, when I play it, I forget I'm on the Switch sometimes because it doesn't look like it's something that would run on the Switch. In fact, I wish I had my base PS4 or Xbox One hooked up to my main TV right now, because I'd love to compare Monster Hunter Rise on Switch to Monster Hunter World on those base systems, because there's a chance I feel like this may actually look better. Yeah, like I said, it runs incredibly smooth, even with a full party of 4 players, with their Palamute companions, as well as multiple monsters flying around on screen. Yes, if you haven't played one of these games before, things can get very chaotic, and even in those moments, the frame rate, the performance holds up. Similar to the magic panic button achieved with the likes of Doom Eternal recently, it's kind of hard to believe how well this all came together. And it's for this reason, I think it'd be really smart for Nintendo to continue to pursue these types of agreements. If you're unaware, while the game is currently a Switch exclusive, it is a timed exclusive. So far, I think it's only planned for PC coming a bit later down the line, but unlike other timed exclusive type deals, I think this stuff can have a way bigger benefit for the Switch, as often Switch versions of games aren't made a priority, they're released later. But if you can work out this sort of deal, it forces devs to put the Switch version front and center and design everything from the start, not just with the Switch in mind, but as the top priority. You're not going to want to be on one platform for like a year after launch and have that version not be the best it can be. And that's definitely what you're getting here. You can tell by how good the game looks and performs on Switch that the focus, regardless to whatever other platforms this game ends up coming to, was on maximizing the Switch's performance. Yeah, other timed exclusives may end up running like the best on the platforms they have the timed exclusivity deal for, but it's a much bigger deal, I think, for the Switch, as they have that big gap in power versus other platforms. So yeah, I definitely hope this is something Nintendo takes more advantage of, because yeah, it got them this third-party game that I would honestly put up against any of Nintendo's first-party exclusives on the Switch. It's that good-looking. Gameplay-wise, if you've never played a Monster Hunter game before, as the title implies, it's about hunting monsters. Either solo or in a group, you track down and battle behemoth creatures that you can harvest materials from after you defeat them to build weapons and armor that will allow you to take on more powerful monsters. Super addictive action gameplay. You can really quickly get pulled into that mindset of, oh, I just want to get one more hunt in. I think I can get that last part I'm missing to build a badass weapon or something like that. I mean, trust me, the hardest part about making this video for me was having to stop playing the game to make the damn video. Now, these games definitely have a stigma that they're kind of on the harder side, especially as you progress and get into the harder hunts. Some of the monsters could essentially one-shot you by taking you out with like a combo of attacks before your character's able to get up from one hit. They hit you again and you're done, which can be a bit of a turnoff for people. Some hear like, oh, this is a really tough game, and they get a bit intimidated by it, I guess. All I can say is don't be. The game does a fine job of teaching you the basic mechanics and easing you in with more manageable hunts at the start, and then, of course, building you up to the tougher ones. Obviously, you're upgrading your equipment as you play, so by playing, these things just get inherently easier as your character gets stronger. And I gotta say, the Monster Hunter community, in my experience, is very welcoming. Maybe it's because we're talking PvE group content, so everyone wants the people they play with to do their best. But you'll find people on forums and stuff like that will oftentimes answer your questions and not be at least too dickish about it most times. At least that's, again, my experience. And those group hunts is where the game really shines. Obviously, you have different weapon types that are better at doing different things. The hammer, for instance, is really good at stunning, so you want to hit the monster in the head. You got, like, the swords that are good at chopping body parts off the monsters. And when you got a full party and everyone's clicking together, just smashing these beasts to pieces, it's just so fun. Again, the only problem is you just want more. The big difference with this iteration, Rise, is the sort of ninja vibe it has. There's a lot of focus on more faster movement options, like with the wire bug that allows you to do mid-air dashes and jumps, which you can use to get to harder to reach locations as well as better evade attacks. The Palamute, as I mentioned earlier, by far the best addition to the game in my opinion. We've had the Palicos, the cat companions that fight alongside you, but now we've got doggos as well. And those you can actually ride on to get around faster, as well as have more mobility while performing different actions. Like weapon sharpening, for instance, your weapons get dull throughout battles, making them do less damage, so you have to stop and sharpen them. And when you do this on foot, you have to stand still, which leaves you vulnerable. But on a Palamute, you can continue to ride around freely while sharpening, makes things much easier. Which, speaking of, I want to talk a bit to the more veteran players, some of which have concerns about this whole friendlier direction the series has gone in recent games. A lot of things have gotten easier to be more welcoming, and there's a bit of worry, I think, that it's too welcoming. Like, all these new additions to the game, things we've been getting, like making preparation much easier. You used to have to get all these things ready to go on a hunt, but now you've got like unlimited whetstones, which is used for the sharpening that I mentioned earlier. Before, they were something that you actually had to gather and make sure you had with you. You used to have to make sure you had multiple pickaxes to mine because they could break. Then all of a sudden it was like they didn't break, and now instead of hitting a mining outcrop like multiple times, you only have to hit it once to get all the materials held within. The new hunting horn is probably the big change in this game in terms of going in that direction. It's a lot easier to use. So yeah, just many things have been going in that more welcoming direction. But in my opinion, I think as long as we still get harder content added over time, you know, stuff like the uncapped hunter rank to work on, it's okay to me. Most of the changes deal with things that oftentimes felt tedious more than anything, but I definitely see sort of a slippery slope happening here, and I wouldn't want them to make things much more friendly than they are now in this game, though. Some of the new stuff in Rise, like the wire bug, I do hope it remains here. Not saying it's bad, it's cool zipping around and makes sense for, again, this ninja vibe they're going for, but I wouldn't want all this to be the norm for the series going forward. My only real complaint in this regard with this game, as I've seen many others state, is the monster mounting. Regularly in fights, monsters will be opened up to be able to be mounted with the wire bug, and you can basically control them. You can run around with them, attack other monsters, drive them into walls, etc. I think this whole mechanic is one too good. Like, it's huge when you can take advantage of maybe one monster on the map and use it to wreck the monster that you're actually hunting. It happens too often, like multiple times per hunt a lot of the time, and I think it just kind of messes with the flow of things. it puts that one player kind of in charge of the fight for the moment, and everyone else is kind of on autopilot until it ends. I don't like it. Doesn't ruin the experience or anything, but it's something I'd rather not have in the game. All in all, though, the gameplay formula for Monster Hunter is amazingly addictive. It feels so good to play. It doesn't get old, at least in my opinion. I've already put in like close to 40 hours into the game since it released over a week ago, and we're just getting started. As I alluded to, we're going to see this Hunter rank cap removed. Right now, you can only level up essentially to 7. They're going to remove that, and you're going to be able to go all the way up into like the hundreds. And of course, they'll add more monsters and content over time. With Monster Hunter World getting the whole Iceborne expansion, I'm sure Rise will get something similar to that at some point. Now, to get into the big new mode for this game, I gotta talk a bit about the story, which I do want to note, do not go into these games expecting some sort of enthralling narrative masterpiece, okay? These games are about smashing monsters with your friends. There is a story, but it's there just to give you a reason to go out and slaughter these creatures. And that story revolves around your home of Kamura Village that is dealing with these rampaging monsters sieging the town. So you have this new rampage mode, which is sort of like a horde mode. If you've played Gears of War, you've got to survive multiple waves of monsters sieging the outer gates that they're trying to break through. I think there's like 3 gates in total, so like once they break through one, you know, you go on to the next area, they're trying to break through the second one, and you're defending the area by not just fighting the monsters, but also setting up traps and turrets to keep them at bay. These fights can take that chaotic nature of Monster Hunter to, you know, the nth degree with many, many monsters on screen at once. So far, I think this mode is a fun change of pace, but right now, yeah, it's a bit too easy, I think. I mean, if you are decent at hitting the traps and utilizing the turrets, you just devastate the sieging monsters. I don't think I've lost once, even doing the rank 7, the highest ranked version of it. Again, we'll probably get harder iterations to make it more challenging, to offer up better rewards, but right now that's the only thing I would say is that is a bit too easy. So all in all, I absolutely love Monster Hunter Rise. Yes, of course, this was worth the wait. This is the Monster Hunter game Nintendo players, Switch players deserve after waiting all this time for a real HD Monster Hunter game on a Nintendo platform. The combat is about as good as it's ever been. I do like the new fast-paced nature of utilizing like the wire bug and everything. It's nice that this game is more welcoming, but I do get many veterans' concerns that it is getting a bit too welcoming. I personally wouldn't say that about this game, but again, when we consider the trajectory, the direction we've been going in, if things kind of continue to progress at this rate in this direction, I'd probably be worried in a game or two. And most of you who are Monster Hunter fans, I'm sure have already picked the game up. But yeah, for those of you who maybe haven't played a game in this series before, there's never been a better time to get into it. So if you're checking out this gameplay and thinking it looks interesting, I'd say give it a shot. I highly doubt you'll be disappointed. And with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on Monster Hunter Rise in the comments. Are you currently playing the game? And do you think this was worth the wait that us Nintendo fans had to endure to get a real HD Monster Hunter game on one of these HD Nintendo platforms? As always, I'm the Shy Guy, Johnny Zakari, and thanks for watching.